So my dad joined the fire service probably when I was around 9 or 10 years old. Never really thought of a career in the fire service, but I guess following his footsteps, he moved up through the ranks and become the fire chief for the town of Allendale, and then ended up getting the county to consolidate all of the fire service under the county, and then they made him the county fire chief. My dad was really sick, and I knew that, he wasn't going to be able to continue doing the fire service. And so me and him had a conversation, and I went to the county and talked to the county about taking the fire service over. They accepted the offer, and I guess legacy in the fire service followed his footsteps. A lot of weight on my shoulders at the time, taking over something that he had built for years and years. But I often think about those days. I can remember Camden Smaller and him and Dad cowling together all over the place, and I can only imagine what those two would be into right now if he was still here in the fire chief. But I know he's looking down on the fire service, but it does mean a lot to have him here and be part of this, and following the footsteps of the fire service as I did with my dad, and now him, following my footsteps.
It's a bond, if Steve could use that word, it's like family. When you think of the fire department, it's like your family away from family. When I joined North Spartanburg in 82, 83, the fire department was 2 on shift and 40 volunteers. And I joined as a volunteer for 4 years. I got hired there. I was the first black to be hired. I worked there 36 years, and moved up through the ranks from firefighter to when I retired, I was a battalion chief.
The door opened for me to come by the fire department. And the chief at that time knew my family and interviewed me and hired me the next day. The fire service is a give back to the community service. So the people you usually see entering the fire service are those that want to give back. Number one, we never pushed him that way. I came to the fire department to have insurance and a retirement. He chose at age 18 to go work for the sheriff's office. And that was fine with us. But then a few years later, he decided to change and go into the fire service as a firefighter in Liberty to start with.
It's all I ever wanted to do. It was my dream as a young child. And in my early teens, I'd slip out the window before I got my driver's license and ride my bicycle to the car. So it's all I ever wanted. I don't know that I can put it into words other than it's just pride. Recognize that we've been blessed, and it's neat to walk alongside of my boats. Frank currently lives in the D.C. area. He started his career with our department and worked for a number of years in Sumter in St. John's Fire Department, and went to the Coast Guard. And he's back in the States, and he's an explosives canine handler. Has a beautiful yellow lab, Milo. And so they both have made us proud.
So many years ago as a child, I had several family members that were members here, and I always just grew up chasing fire trucks. And I think for my 5th birthday, one of my uncles gave me a helmet with a red light and siren on it. That annoyed my parents very much, but I ran around the house with it. And it was a love from first sight, I guess you could say. And when I was 13, I joined up and rode my bicycle down here and ran, jumped in the back of a truck, drove a tractor, whatever we needed to do to get here. My uncles were firefighters. My dad actually was in the military, so he was not having time for fire department. But my uncles was involved, and one uncle in particular was chief at the time I joined, and is still with us on today. I mean, I think just families bond, being able to serve and do things together and serve your community together, and we're very fortunate here in Townwood that there's countless families that have been and still are involved with it, either being, children and parents, or husbands and wives, uncles, nephews. We have here, not only here, but a lot of that in Anderson County and even Oconee County, but locally it's very family oriented. And I mean, not only does it help the community, but it gives you even more numbers, because obviously there's several of us coming from our house at any given time, and just, manpower wise, it helps.
Trucks, anytime I saw them, I heard them, and it was like the world stopped. I just had to go figure out what was going on. But we were fortunate too. One of their stations was near their house where I grew up. And so a lot of times they would get calls. I mean, back then there was only one person that maybe at that station, and they could just get on my bike and just ride across the street without one truck. Then I kind of got into a junior firefighter program once I was 15, at Duncan. And I was fortunate enough to get on my training before I graduated high school from there. And graduated high school, we just kind of rolled into it. After here I am almost 10 years later, it's still here.
Just seeing them when I grew up, it was like you said, piling around with them. When I was younger, I can remember 5, 6 years old, jumping in the vehicle with them and going to a fire and getting to see what they did. It was awesome. Even going up to the station, I could remember, just the camaraderie going up there to the station and just getting to hang out with all the, you kind of felt like you were cool, like you're something special. And just being that third generation firefighter, I hope one day that I can give that to my kids, that same experience of being able to come up here and have that camaraderie with the rest of the firemen and ladies that volunteer also. We kind of have that, we'll come home and talk about certain things and just having that mentality that, we're both in that same career path. So just, you always have that little connection, and it's like, we'll come home, we'll be sitting at dinner, we'll be talking, and my mom and sister, not calling them out, well, we'll be talking about something, and, and it's like, can we talk about something else, So yeah, it definitely has built a connection for us that we kind of have that, just bonds us a little bit closer together. Really goes back to the whole, it's just in the blood. You have so many generational families, and yes, you do have firefighters that come in from the outside that, that just kind of falls in their lap, and they're like, hey, this is pretty cool, I want to do this one day. And I feel like it is, in a way, it's always a kid's dream, like growing up, you always have that period of time at least that, hey, I want to be a firefighter. That's what I want to do one day. And then eventually you get older and, it grows off. But just that family mentality growing up in that, seeing that, and it really is, it's just in the blood. I mean, you get the bug, and that's kind of the end of it.
Well, I went to work, when I was in high school, I was an explorer, cadet at the sheriff's office, and started going to school to get my degree in criminal justice. And so I was hired in dispatch, which was an awesome job. I think I got to dispatch for fire, EMS, got to dispatch for everybody. And I'd always been around the fire station my entire life. So growing up, after school, he'd pick me up. I'd sit in the corner of his office and do homework, and then go, cause trouble the rest of the afternoon until he told me it was time to go. But I just always enjoyed the atmosphere in the fire station. The guys, it's always a lot of fun. Kind of started gravitating towards the fire department. So we talked one day, and I started volunteering here just to mainly start getting classes and training. Volunteers were under the assistant chief, so he had to deal with me, and he didn't. But it was fun starting to get my training, starting to kind of figure things out, and then I was like, this is what I want to do.
I didn't know I had a choice. So I went to my first fire when I was just a couple months old. in the fire truck in a car seat, if you could call what we had in the 70s car seats. And so when he became fire chief, it was for brand new countywide departments. We had no fire stations. They got their first fire apparatus before we had the stations built. So the engine was actually in our yard, in the driveway. And so I went to my first fire when I was just a few months old. And my brother and I honestly spent our whole childhood that way. Dad would leave us in the car, which is frowned upon now, but other firefighters or their wives would come by and check on us and make sure we were okay. I think you'd roll the windows down so we weren't panting like dogs, but yes, it's all I've ever known.
It was always in our blood. Like Jonathan and I both grew up, watching Dad at fires before we became firefighters. We were very fortunate not only have a loving mother and father to guide us growing up, but I mean, it truly is a family. I joke, I got a lot of aunts and uncles. That's who helped raise Jonathan and I and make us into who we are today. But, at the head of it was always Dad guiding everybody.
I always just grew up around it and saw everybody.
Just like being around with Dad and everybody. I mean, that's just our childhood was, coming down here, we'd climb on trucks and stuff. So just always been around it.
Same story. I mean, I remember from as long as I can remember, even when until we were 14, we've run thousands or hundreds of calls just in the back of Dad's trucks and cars, just wherever we are, just going and sitting in fire scenes. And once we got old enough, all of us just felt inclined to follow in his footsteps.
What would I like to tell my dad on Father's Day? I would just like to thank him for raising me the way he has over the years, and it just means a lot to me. I feel like he raised me to be, there's always two things he's always told me, is respect and integrity. And, those are two things I feel like he raised me to understand and reflect. And that's something that I'll always grow up, and I'm going to tell my kids the same thing, is respect and integrity. Because if you carry those two things with you, if you respect somebody, it'll carry you a long ways. And if you have integrity, doing the right thing when nobody's looking, that's something that'll carry you a long ways in life. And sometimes somebody might be looking when you might not think they are. And that'll just take you a long ways in life.
Thanks for, like I said, I've been doing this for 20 years, but even outside of that, like I mentioned a while ago, just a really good mentor and role model for me throughout my entire life. And without getting too emotional, that's where I'm going to stop.
Good.
Whew. That's tough. Probably thank you. I know that sounds very simple, but we can always say the good days are good. We know that, we laugh and share them, but the tough days are the hard days. Showing up when you don't have time, staying up late to talk, making that drive. There's been times he's come to my house late at night just so we could talk for a little bit. Didn't ask him to. Thank you. You've been there for me more than I could ever give you that appreciation. I love you.
I'm really, really appreciative of not just you showing me the path, but you walking the path with me. Some of my biggest career decisions, you have not just supported, but you've asked critical questions, and I appreciate it. And so I'm just really, really grateful for the investment that you and Mom made in Craig and I, and I hope it's made good return.
I credit everything in my life to him. Hard work, work ethic, learning how to build relationships, treating everybody like they should be treated and not just other people. I mean, family. He's the one that instilled that into my brother and I. You know, I wouldn't be the person I am today without him. He's helped mold my brother and I, and thank you.
This, like, his job and career path has allowed us to like go on trips and stuff that a lot of kids wouldn't get to do and all that stuff. So I'm grateful for that.
Go back. Just being able to spend time with them and go to different fire conferences and see fire trucks. Stuff like that.
I couldn't imagine like being able to go in like the first you went into like a structure fire or something and your dad being there with you. Like there's no better feeling, and I just love being able to do it with him, and the fact that we've all followed in his footsteps in some way, or in most of it, or all of us in many ways we have followed in his footsteps. But
Whether it be fire service or softball or baseball trips and stuff, just all enjoying the same things.